That one's there. Let's give it a go. Cool, should work. Don't need that one. And yeah, this should be live. So great. Welcome to anybody that's watching. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to look at the database branch from Logseq, but I'm going to build it from scratch. Now, I haven't done anything on my Windows laptop, kind of on purpose, because I also want to show like the work and the process that goes into like getting one of these things set up. But let's get started. Feel free to ask questions in the chat. I'll try to monitor it. I am a bit scatterbrained. But if I see a question, I'll try and answer it, and there will be plenty of options. Let's start with having a look. So how does that work? Like the future of Logseq, they've been working on the database branch for a long while, and what I wanted to talk about or show here is that because it's open source, we can actually just go there. Now let me go to the start of this. So if I go to like Logseq on GitHub, and you see like the code here, and then there's branches. And if I go to view all branches, what you can see is that you have the master branch. This is basically the releases. And then on the, hey, it's not showing me the right window. Give me a second, that's buggy. It should be showing this. I'm gonna switch off that automatic scene switcher because it's not reliable and it constantly switches things away. Okay, so back to the start. No worries. Awesome, Florida. Hi, Kevin. Cool. So I was in Florida like 4 months ago, which was great fun. Let's get back to the actual Logseq bit. So yeah, I go to the Logseq page on GitHub, and then when you see here is the branches. And this is like the code. And if I click on that one, I go to view all branches. Then what you see here is, this is the master branch. That's basically what the releases of Logseq get built from. And then if I go down here, you see active branches. So these are like versions of the code that people are working on. And the most important one for us is the feature DB here. What you can see is that one is 1844 commits ahead, meaning that there's been done a lot of work that's not part of master yet. Now you also have this enhanced dev, and don't be fooled if I look at this one, because I went through that one earlier today, and that one's mostly the feature DB merged and a couple of tweaks and changes. Our focus is going to be on this one. Now if you just open this won't tell you much, it's just code. The trick that I'm going to try and pull is get this compiled, build, and then we can click through it. I messed around with this before. That was in November, I believe. I have notes on that one. So let me switch to my Logseq. This one, November 26th, when I made notes on how I spend time building it. And then it was running on my Linux laptop, and there were really cool stuff. So things that if we get this to work, you're going to see is things like being able to specify classes and types, and I'm going to be talking a bit about the database, but that one's not that visual, because the problem that you have with like these database type of things is it's gonna be like, you know, superficial. And when I was looking at it in November, the database is less the backend, and there's like a couple of layers in that. Let me draw that out a bit. So if you have like, let me see, get me a pen. So if you have like Logseq has like an internal node structure, you know, your graph is in there, and that's in memory. And then Logseq does a trick, and that is that it has like a two-way sync towards your markdown files. And this is a bit how Logseq works on a technical set. Now for the database version, this part, when I last checked it, wasn't done. So what that means is that all the cool features here were there, and there was like a database interface, but it wasn't writing it to files yet. And when I was looking at it, they were looking at the SQLite. So that's like a database format, which I think is more matching to Logseq because of its block-based nature, as long as you have some way of getting into Markdown. But we'll get to that later. I'm gonna dive in the technical stuff first. Hope everything is visible. If at some point things don't work the way they should, just let me know in the chat and I'll see if I can fix it. First step is getting into the code. So let me open my terminal. This is where things are going to get like a little bit technical. So I got a directory here, project Logseq, Logseq. This is basically Logseq code. And if I go to git remote v, then that tells me like, hey, this is where I'm drawing it from. github.com, logseq.git, meaning we're getting this like straight from the source. Another thing that we want to know here is branch, which shows me I'm in the master branch. I don't care about the master branch. I can just download the compiled executable and get it from there, unless I'm doing development work. But you know, I don't do a lot of development work with Logseq. So what I actually want, and that is if I do a git branch min a, is get the feed db branch. And there's a lot of branches here, but you can see that there's like a feed set here. And I think I always forget this one, branch feed db, and then I think I can say origin feed db. So what I'm doing now is I'm checking out the code that's based on the featuredb branch. So it says switch to a new branch, featuredb. And if I go look at git log, then this one shows that one, featuredb. So then like I'm in the head of that setup. And then we need to compile it. Now back to my notes, it said I had to use yarn. And then I probably hit my first issue, and that is that I don't have yarn installed. Now normally on Linux you can probably do something like apt-get, and I figured things out, but on Windows it's different. And also this command test is not the yarn we are looking for. So I'm going back to simply googling stuff, and that is install yarn on Ubuntu DSL, and then I get to this, and this is practically what I was expecting, like a shell script that says like, hey, this installs the whole 9 yards. So let's just copy that one and give it a paste. Oh, I don't like that it auto executes. First of all, like now I'm taking like an assumption because it's from the yarn website, the official one, but normally I would read the shell script first to see like, you know, what happens. I also just wanted to paste the command, but it immediately commits it. Let me see what it's doing here. Boop, boop. Yarn requires Node.js 4.0 or higher to be installed. So this is like the dependency hell that you get when you do anything development related. Like, okay, I don't have Node.js on this. Well, that's expected. It says like I can install Node.js. The question I would have is which version would I get? This one. Version 8, that should be good enough. So let's see if I can get this to work without much trouble and get it to install. So now it's installing Node.js version 8. It required version 4, so I should be good. There's a lot of technical stuff here. If there's any questions on like the technical stuff, then just let me know and I'll try to explain it like in a way that's understandable. I'm not sure at what level everyone is sitting at. Okay, IP not found. So things might be behind. Let me say update. Might is that I'm trying to install an old version. So for people that don't use Linux, apt is like a package manager, and a package manager is to install software. In this case, that's Node.js. So let's see if that works better. And by doing an apt update, I get like the latest versions, and then by apt install, it tries to get those versions and find them. And the last one failed because it couldn't find that package. So I'm basically going like through a checklist here, which is, let me open a checklist on Logseq to work on this. This is from my previous video. Maybe what I can do best is just I'm just gonna be simple and make like a quick note. So, you know, install Node.js, install yarn. And then for yarn, that was going to be this one, and install Node.js. And that I did an update, and then if that one is correct, install Node. I'm doing weird stuff. Okay. I'll type it again. There we go. So those two things are done. Let's see if we actually got the thing installed. Okay, so it says that it's installed. Let's go back a couple of commands then, and then try to do that yarn install again. Now normally like this part, this is actually why I wanted to copy it. I would copy that and open it in like a browser so I can have a read, because this will open a file. And then I'll have to open that one with something else. I was kind of hoping that it would open it in the set itself, and I don't want to open it with shell. I want something like Notepad. Give me a small second while I share that, because I don't have that one prepared, but that's fine. We'll get there. So it's going to be an adventure on its own. So like I'm looking at the shell script. This mostly generates colors. This like gets a tarball to install it, and a quick skim over me tells that it gets the, you can say nightly here, version, get specific version, and verify integrity, meaning that it checks the keys on the code. For me, like a quick skim over this doesn't show me anything weird. I'm not expecting anything weird, and there's people that like me that normally, like if I wasn't on stream, I might go through it like a bit more fine-combed if I didn't trust the source. But in this case, I know where the source is coming from, so I care a little bit less. Now let's see if this installer works again. Okay, now it complains that there's already a yarn install file. And considering that we didn't have one yet, I'm just going to remove it. This is something where you have to be very careful, because I'm doing a -rf on an rm, and if you do that in the wrong directory, you have a lot of problems. So it might be obvious to a lot of people if you're watching this. When you're doing this kind of thing, here be dragons. This is not something that you should do for the lighthearted. I'm making like a nice 10-minute video on the database structure after I get this installed, after this live stream is done. And that's going to be for everyone that just wants to see like how does that look. But this is my, hey, I'm going to do this live because it's funny to see me go through that process and struggle. Let me see, because I don't see a lot of things happening in chat, and I'm not sure if that is because everybody's watching and not chatting. Well, it seems to be good. So like chat should be fine. If chat isn't working fine, send me a tweet or something. I'll hear a ping. Okay, so we get yarn installed. Let's see, going back to my notes. That was from the previous set. Let me have my Logseq open so people can see. And then what I had is yarn install and yarn watch. So yarn install basically gets the dependencies in, and yarn watch will compile Logseq. And I think from there on you can already run it. So let's have a look. Okay, Tobias, yes, I can see the test 1, 2. So that's great. Thanks for the help there. And I know that I'm not missing out if anybody has like questions, because I am going very technical, and I'm confident that people at some point will be saying like, hey, can you explain why you're doing this or doing that? So let's see, I have the terminal open, and I'm just gonna run a yarn install, and it fails. So I did get yarn installed, but I can't run it. Maybe I just need to reload the setup. Let's see if that works. Yeah, so I just typed yarn here and not yarn install, but as you can see, yarn install seems to be the default. Now, yeah, that's outside of my notes, but that's fine. This is gonna take a while, so you know, I'll be we'll be waiting on this case. I had like some ideas I had before. Let's talk about that one. So some ideas on like the database thing, which I like. So why is a database thing something that's related? And it's very much related to the fact that markdown files aren't ideal. Oh, it's crashing. Great, so we have something to look at. Jumping all over the place, but you know, these installers will take a while. And you know this incompatible with this module, expected version 12, got version 8. So this one's like a later version of Node. It wants like a version up to 12. Okay, so now we're moving stuff back. I'm going to up to remove Node.js. Now the problem with package managers is that you usually get like an old version, and I'm behind on Node.js versioning, so I'm going to figure out if I can install a newer version. Node.js Ubuntu DSL install. From Microsoft itself. This is all installing it. Yeah, it does get install curl and then install nvm. Hey, Danny. Yeah, this is like source code stuff, but it's still quoting the source, right? If I'm going to the websites, I'm just gonna see, because this still feels like they're installing alternative version managers. I don't want to install Visual Studio Code. That's like way more than I wanted to do here. Yeah, I don't think the Microsoft site is the best one. It's also going way too high on it. See if this one's like more. That's one I got. Okay, yeah, it does expect me to install the whole bunch. Okay, I'm gonna do stupid stuff by just rushing through it and installing the whole thing. If I ruin my system, everything crashes, it's my fault. I'll be spending the whole tomorrow to fix my system, but you know, let's just get there. At least it's not running with elevated privileges, which is better for me. So NVM is installed, and then I can do an NVM ls. Oh yeah, probably I need another terminal. Let's see if that works. Yeah. And let's see what's going on here. Yeah, that is exactly what it says here. And then it says npm install. No, let's just give that a go. Now, I'm not a developer, so don't expect me to know exactly how everything runs and works. I think I'm on the wrong screen. Is it back on the terminal? Yeah, it's back on the terminal. So while I'm trying to figure this stuff out, that's because I'm more of an operations guy. I don't develop code. I just know how to set up these things and build them from all the years of running Linux. But I'm nowhere near as versed as some of the developers are. And it's also one of the issues that I hit when I look at issues within Logseq, and I would love to fix them, but I don't understand Clojure, so I don't have like the skill set to really dive deep like some other people or like the plugin developers, which I have mad respect for. Okay, so this one's installed. Let's see what it shows me now. Okay, so now I get like much newer versions. That seems to be good. And then it dives into the deep end. So let's just, just give it another go. What's the worst that could happen? Oh my god. Then we get on the glibc side of things. Oh, this is going to take a while. I might be better off just, hooking up my laptop and connecting to that one where I have all these things set up. But this is like the developer hell that you get into these kind of things. I think in the last changelog I mentioned about the glibc problem. My VSL Ubuntu that's installed into Windows has like an older version of libc, and that was like one of the changelog bugs that were there, that older people couldn't run it. Well, let's see if I can cheat there. I just install glibc. I'm not sure it's glibc or just libc. I think It's just libc. It's like a bit of a thing to have a look at. That one. Linux libc, I see like a lot of versions there. I don't want to install the dev version. Lots of libraries, it goes like overboard on there. I see the libc coming by. I should have just grabbed on this, but you know, way too long. Let's see if I can cheat my way in here. Yeah, there we go. The libc bin. Oh yeah, I can see like there's an upgradable set. Well, let's just give that a go then. I have no idea. Oh yeah, it's been a while since I updated this this version of my code. So as I said, this is my Windows system. I don't normally do development on this. I just wanted to get through the steps. Now, eventually I'll get to a point where this is working. If I don't get it to work quickly in here, I have like a backup plan in the form of my trusty laptop. This one has like a version of it running on it, so I could hook that up, and because it's a web-based application, I can probably just start it on this and then open it up on my desktop so people can see it. I really hope that the update doesn't take as long as it shows in here, else this is going to be a long stream. Well, while it's running, I can go back to my other set. So yeah, data. The database idea is that Logseq uses SQLite. And why is that such a big deal? One of the reasons is because if you have like your local graph, everything there is in memory. I was just double checking to make sure that I have like an image. And as your graph grows bigger, that becomes a bit of a problem, because you know this graph is bigger and then Logseq talks to that graph, but it starts eating like a lot of memory. And then because it then has to sync in the background to the markdown files, this takes some time. Now Obsidian doesn't have that problem, and I don't know what kind of magic they're doing there. I think partially because they don't look at it from a block perspective, but more from a page perspective. Can't say for sure, because I'm not sure how they keep it tweaked, but I'm mostly going to look at this as like, what is the advantage of having like a database backend? And so the advantage of having a database backend is that Logseq could say like, hey, I'm just going to take the nodes that you're currently working with, like a couple of those, and it can actually go towards one of these databases and say like, hey, I would like to know everything that's related to this one, and then just this one will just return that. It will just say these nodes are all related to it. And that means that you can keep the graph in memory smaller, and all the data comes straight from like the database, so straight from like the disk. Another benefit I see, and mostly is that because this is like SQLite, is that SQLite is, it is open source, so you can use like a different tool to query this. It's not as easy to read as Markdown, but for that there will of course be like a Markdown export set. Now I hope this is going to be going both ways, and I kind of was hoping then that what they do is that we have this, which is fully automatic. I make changes in Logseq, they go into my graph, the graph gets synced to SQLite, that's done. And this part, that part I would like to be manual. Now let me write that down. And why do I want that part to be manual? Is because that extra sync towards Markdown files is tricky. And because it's tricky, I much more prefer a button in my Logseq that says like, hey, we're going to sync it both ways. And then I get like pop-ups saying like, oh, I see changes here. This is like a duplicate. This needs to be merged, where I can make smart decisions about my nodes than trying to do magically, trying to fix it in the background kind of thing. Hitting one of those buttons like once a day and still having my text version, but also having like a stable Logseq version, to me sounds like the dream. Some people might disagree because they sound like, yeah, but I always want to have that markdown. But let's not forget that Logseq being software, Logseq is not just going to disappear. The site could disappear tomorrow. The GitHub thing could disappear tomorrow, but you would still have Logseq on your system and you would still have plenty of time to do a final export, get everything in Markdown. And even if that wasn't the case, so let's say a worst case scenario, you don't have Logseq anymore, you don't have your graph, you just have the SQLite file, you could still use the SQLite tools to get from that database, which, wouldn't be ideal, but you'd still not totally lose your notes. And I'm pretty sure if this magical scenario would happen, the Logseq users like me would come together and write a script to do an export straight from the SQLite. This is really hypothetical because I don't think that will ever happen. Another reason why having a database is nice is that with Markdown you're limited. You can't have all the properties that you want. Actually, what you want to have is like every block has like your text in it, just whatever is written in it, but you also have like metadata in it. So for example, so you have like your text that's in the block. And another thing that you want in there is you want to know when it was last updated. And why do you want to know when it was last updated? Because if you have two blocks that are exactly the same, you want to know which one's relevant, you want to get the latest one. This is just one of the metadata. Once you start going towards, and I've talked to people about it, I know Hoi Chen really likes the fact to be able to work together. Sees like a great future in it, I think as well. And that means that you also want to know like who's the owner or like who last changed it, last changed. And if you would do that in Markdown, that would mean that if I would open a text file with my notes in it, it would be filled to the brim with 4 lines on the referee, because every line of text would have like sublines on it with a property updated time, and that would be, I think, more unreadable than the whole SQLite idea. I also would get plenty of complaints because people saying like, okay, this Markdown isn't really Markdown. So these are obstacles that the database version is trying to solve, because now you can keep all that stuff in the database, and then if you do an export, you care less about when it was last updated because you know when it was last exported, and that's just the file date time. This is like a huge change, and I think one of the reasons why they're spending so much time on it is because they wanted to make it so that you can work together with other people in Logseq, which I would like to do as well. But that's a hard thing. Normally, if we were looking at, let me show, like any cloud app, it's much easier. Like again, let's take Notion for example, because I know Notion well. But this basically applies to nearly anything. Notion is easy because they just talk to like a single database in their back end, and anything you do straightly goes in there. So if somebody else on the other side of the world would also have Notion, they could talk to that, and this thing is like the single source of truth. And with local data like Logseq Obsidian does, you don't get that. You have to sync stuff. So you have to have like, hey, I have like my copy A here and somebody has a copy B there, and then these things come together and that turns into like copy C. And then who wins? Because if 2 people change the line at the same time, you have to decide which one's the one that you want to keep. How are you going to merge those things? This is harder than it should be, but it's definitely the case. The benefit, of course, that your data is local, and you're no longer. I think I was reading that on Mastodon, the enshittification, as they call it, meaning that people should still be able to use like their older versions. I think there is a problem, of course, because once you start working with this, everybody has to be on the latest version or close to the latest version, basically use the same way to talk to each other. So if you would say, keep your current version of Logseq and you would go 3 years on, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be able to sync your notes with somebody that has like the latest version, like a 3-year newer version than you, unless the backend is really good. Here's hoping. So this is the reasons why the database version is nice. Now I hope once this install is done, I also get to look at the classifications, because one of the things that I really liked about the future is in Tana it's called super tags, and Logseq has a similar setup where you can say like this is a book and this is a person and this is a project, and because it's a project, book or person, it needs these fields with these data entries. That works. I had that up and running on the 21st of November, and I hope to show it here as well if I get this thing to compile. Should have like done the update here as well. It's still running. Like, look at that, man. Like, and I have gigabit internet. This is not a download speed thing. It's just a lot of packages. I was really behind. This is something I should have done before the setup. Maybe we'll just I'll set up the laptop on the side just to be sure to have like a backup. Yeah. Oh man, plugins on mobile. That would be so nice. Totally agree with that. And it's one of those things where I'm really glad that we're now having like the UX elements that we had last time, because those allow for Logseq to make smart transitions for plugins between different environments. So here's hoping that that first step really pans out, because having those would be a massive boon. I think it's really nice how Obsidian has that working. It made my tablet usage so much better, because I don't really care about it too much on the phone, because on the phone I'm on the go and I'm not really being productive. I usually just trying to find some notes. But on my tablet, oh man, like when I have like a full keyboard and I have like the full screen and I can use plugins to show the data that I want to see, then that means that I have like a much more lightweight system. Like my laptop's pretty lightweight, but my tablet is the kind of thing that I can just bring anywhere. I don't even have to think about it. That fits in my small day pack bag, and I usually bring it when I go anywhere, because I might be in the train for an hour and I don't want to carry my laptop around the whole day. But the tablet, that's fine. So that would be really cool. I can work on the phone, but I try to not to, except typing maybe. Now I can't show what's on the laptop. I can show how the install's going, so we're pretty far. And of course my face is in the way of the last bit of the bar, typical. See, do I have like secure shell on this one? Because then I would at least be able to show what's on my laptop. That one seems to be. No. There we go. Does this thing show me an IP? That's doubtful. That looks more like it. Well, let's give that a go. What's the worst that could happen? Because I'm going to be messing with my laptop. At least I want people to be able to see what I'm doing there as well. And this one tells me that it's on 202. Oh, it does something. Yay, laptop. Let's see. So this is not on my local system. This is on my Linux laptop. And let's see. There I should just be able to run Yarn Watch straight away. But this one's outdated. This is from November, and there's been a lot of changes in the meantime. Let that one run in the background. What's the worst that could happen there? Let's see, we had this one running. That's still mine. Bring her down to a couple of screens. Okay, this one's done upgrading. Let's hope for the best and see if we get there. No. Okay, I'm gonna give up on trying to get it to work on my Windows system, because fixing glibc things is gonna take me like half the day, and I don't want to keep people busy for that long. Build complete, up and running. Now let me do a quick test on the local machine, and then hopefully I'll be able to replicate that one. And this one's on port 3001. That looks good, so it's a bit slow. Let's see if I can open that on this one as well. Let me bring up this one. In a case of, here's one I prepared earlier. This is like running straight from my laptop. And as you see, you can open a DB-based graph. Now I have two options. I would love to know in the chat which one you prefer. I can go through this one, but this is an old version from November, or I could do an attempt to upgrade the version I have on my laptop, compile it there, and see if we get some results. Well, this is already not super. Okay, remember this is like a development branch, right? So I might be missing whatever that is stopping me from doing this. If I'm looking on my laptop though, I do see like the actual database graphs up and running. So it seems to be a local thing. Let's have another go at it. Yeah, this seems to be failing. So there might be like a difference between the distance because this is running on my laptop and not locally. Attempt to upgrade. Of course we do. Awesome. Let's just give it a go. You know, what's the worst that could happen? Let's see. I got it here. I think I'm already on the right branch, right? Yeah. So let's just do a git fetch all first. Now, I usually do a git fetch all because it just gets all the changes from the latest set. You can do a git pull to merge it straight away, but I just always do a git fetch because I want to have all the commits there. We see like a couple of months of work passing by, and then let's just see what happens. Do a yarn install first. I really hope that they got the syncing working, and I said like it's running better on my. Oops, sorry, forgot to switch to the command. So it's building right now, but I can show what passed by. Control B that, no, Control B. Should be moving up. Yeah, so as you can see, these were like all the changes that were happening and passing by while I was updating. So that's a lot. Let's hope it's a lot more stable because I did a couple of things while I was messing with this in November, like a speed test, for example. I can tell you it was absolutely horrible. That's to be expected because when you're developing these kind of things, you first want to see like, okay, is the functionality working? And then, you know, tweaking it and finding the speed fix usually comes after that part where you like try to find out like, okay, where's the bottlenecks? And you need something to figure those kind of things out. Let's see. Seems to be going well, which is nice. And as I said, you know, this is one of the things that I like. This is not something that everyone can do because, you know, there's a lot of technical stuff happening. But it is really nice that someone can just go in and get into this branch and then look at the state of Logseq when we're going absolutely bleeding edge. Because I think the database branch is about as far on the edge as we can get. It's also like the one thing that gave me a lot more confidence in the future of Logseq, because I saw a lot of features where I'm thinking like, and that's I think the biggest problem I had with this. After I've been messing with the database branch a couple of times, I know like I really wish I had the features now, which is such a cop out it feels, because of course you want those features now. There's a couple of things in there. Lessons that can be learned in this session though is, for example, the way that they are looking at data structures in the future. So I've been keeping a bit more in the back of my head when I'm making things that like, hey, I want to tag pages. So I used to do like a property type. And I've switched to using tags more often because I know that's where the Logseq is heading. Let me see. So I got like this one book. So this one's like Alia's book. Oh, that should be. There we go. So I had like this type collection kind of thing, and I actually should be using tags for this. So I should be saying like, okay, this is a collection tag. Because this is how the future is going to look. It's using a tags set to say like this is X, Y, Z. And why are they using tags and not types? I think it's because tags also was allowing for multiple sets. So say for example you have a person or a book or something like it, but there's also like a movie. So I have like All Systems Red, or I think Artemis is going to get a movie. So Artemis I could tag and say like this is a book, but it's also a movie, and then get all the details in like one page. Because like it's basically the same thing but in different formats, but then I'll see like both the properties combined. So like with the movie I want to see director, and with the book I want to see author and stuff like that. You do have to think about the data types that come after there, of course, because you don't want to overlap these. That's also very much matters. That was the install. Let's do a quick prayer while we do the yarn watch and see what happens. Oh man, when I did the initial install, this data script one, I had to do that manually because that wasn't part of the build set. I spent like at least a couple of hours figuring out how to do the dependency, how to get those things in there. And then mostly how Node.js worked to get like it to tell it to like, hey, it's over there and just load it. But I know that like a couple of weeks later in the code, they added this so that it gets the dependencies itself, which made this process so much easier if I just waited a couple of weeks. And of course, I'm also really looking forward to like the design. Jacob does some really awesome like examples that he places that really shows you like what direction they want to go. Okay, this is good. So waiting for file changes. As this is a development thing, the reason why you see that waiting for file changes is because this is meant for development, and that means that you change the code, and then anytime you change a file and write it, it will auto load that and compile it and make it part of the system, and that's how you get like that development loop. And it shows me this command to update the browser list. I'm not sure if that's needed, but let's just, see if I can give that a go. Did I have the secure shell here? No. Because I have to run this on my laptop, else it's kind of pointless. I'm not sure if this will work, but I might as well do it because it keeps saying this and it might be important. Sure, go ahead. I need to reinstall that one anyway. That's a minor version. And in the meantime, while it's doing that, let's see if it actually shows something. So I reload the whole batch and see what happens. Well, something's changed, at least the color to start with. OPFS is not supported. SQLite DB error, cannot read properties undefined. Get directory. This might be a local thing. I'm gonna go refresh the version on my laptop. See what happens there. I also constantly get this shadow CLGS message, and I have no idea what it is. That's out of my scope. If anybody knows, then let me know, or what I should Google on, because I tried Googling on that and I remember not getting the right answers from that. And it's slow on my laptop, but it does load. So I think that maybe because it's local, it can write the files. Something that isn't happening here. Demo graph. Let's see if I have the demo graph, but can I then say like all pages, or maybe just shows me the file, shows me the config. create graph field. I think this is because I'm running this remote and it's on here. Let's see if I can cheat a bit by... I'm going to see if I can connect to it with AnyDesk so I can show what's happening on there. One moment, please, while I figure that out. It's not that I don't trust you guys, but like if I'm doing AnyDesk stuff, I don't want to accidentally show stuff on the screen. And I don't even have AnyDesk installed on this system, which is fair, you know. Let's see. Let's just give that a go. Hopefully I can at least show some stuff then. Let's see. That's not the one that I want there. And there's like all these version differences. I used to use like VNC and Secure Shell to connect to other machines, but the problem I have, and one of the reasons why I have AnyDesk, is mostly to help friends and family. So that's why I have this basically on the ready in comparison to other tools. Let's see. Oh. Dragging things together. Let's see if this works. Cool, that one's up there. Check, check, check. That's good enough. Let's give it a go. This is not going to be the most flattering way of showing it, but it will be at least something. So this is on my laptop, and this is an old version of the database setup that I had. I'm not sure why still this thing is there and I can't get rid of it. Well, one of the things you can see, I think, is like if I go to contact, is that you see here that contact has like set tags in it, where you can say that this is a specific set and has like a full name and add a property in it. And I'm not sure how well it will work, but let's see what I set up last time when I was testing it, if that still all does. So let's see, Bob, this is different than the last one that I had. Now let's see, let's just create a page, Bob the cat, and then I set tags and I say like, okay, Bob the cat is a, that's not it. I'm missing like a lot of the, that won't work either. Do the super tag kind of thing. So if I say Bob the cat is a contact. Yeah. So this is like one of those features, like I'm saying Bob the cat is a contact, and it says like, oh, in that case you probably want to have a full name. And this is like Bob the amazing cat. I think that. How do you know that the people that are developing this aren't as fanatic on their keyboard shortcuts as me? So yeah, I have it running, and this runs on the database backend. So let's have a look. As you said, add new graph DB version. I can go to all graphs. These shows the Logseq DB test setups, and these one use like the database in the backend. Now, one of the things that I don't know how to figure out straight away is I know that they've been working on, you know, saving this into like an SQLite setup. Maybe that one's local, because that's one of the reasons why it fails when I do it remotely, because I would expect it to try and write stuff on my local system. It could also be Edge, maybe that it's using like specific security circumvents, because I can imagine that running stuff locally, saving files locally, is a security question setup. Let's have a look. Is there anything you guys want me to mess around or test with? So let me know, and I'll just click around and see how far we can get with this. Login won't make a lot of changes here. This menu is way shorter than I'm used to. Looking at the settings, seeing the colors in, and it says version 10.2, which is absolutely a lie. Now, don't be confused. Setting a version is one of the last things you do when you're developing. So this is expected that there's like an older version in here because there is no real version set. Going through the setups here, advanced, usage data, features. Okay, let's give that a go. Let's see if we can break this development version. So let's add a new GraphDB version. This was what was failing before. So here, moment of truth. Here it works. So now we have like a fresh database set up. And then for me, for example, is I always want to work on things and give them like a book set. So I'm going to go and call this like a book and apply. And as you can see now, it says like a book on the side. And if I go to book here, I can do like a configure and say like, okay, you know, what does a book have? It can have a parent class, meaning that you want to take over stuff from other sets. And if you're wondering why I'm looking to the right, it's because my laptop's there. And you can give like class properties. So let's make a simple one. Say like, hey, you want an author. So I make a new option called author. And then if we go back to the book here, then I was expecting it. Yeah, here I say configure and I can say author and then make sure that I think that's anywhere. On the top of my head, I love Project Hail Mary. And as you can see, the properties are getting filled in, but one of the things that I see very often if I press enter, I think this is a bug. It's supposed to be behind it and now it gets to the on the side if I press enter. So I think it takes the enter and adds it to the data set while it shouldn't. Another set here, let's see, because I have tags and configure, but one of the things that I liked originally, yeah, here, this is something that people will probably find interesting, is that you have like not only the name, but you can also give it like an icon. I'm not sure why it's not picking it up. There we go, it's just slow. So the icon is something to say like, okay, this is the author, and you can also say like what type. Now you can't change the type once you start using it, which is nice because that makes sure that your data doesn't get changed around and everything breaks. Ideally you want to be able to change it, but that one is of course a lot trickier because then all the data that you filled in needs to be checked and make sure that you don't lose anything. You can give like some default values if you think like that's important to you, and you can also request it to be hidden by default. One of the nice ones, let me see if I can add one and say like author was actually a good one, but you know, I'll just do an example and see if I can. So I'm making this a sample one, and now you can pick like all the schema types. Oh, this is nice in coloring. But you can say like, hey, this refers to a page. This refers to a template, a URL, a checkbox, date, number, and text. And the page one was one that I liked a lot because you can say like multiple values, but you can also specify a class. So you can say like, hey, you can only show other books. I misclicked on it. This one's good. Specify class, book, fly. And why is that awesome? I made like a simple example which I did, for example, a meeting, and I said like attending, and I said for attending I only want to search in pages that are contacts, which makes searching quicker because there's less to go through and means that you don't see all these false positives. Another one I love this for is projects. This is a feature that I'm constantly messing in my day-to-day Logseq usage. So now I made this example here, and let's make like another page. Bob the cat we already had, so let go. And I'm gonna make a Control K gets me in like the location bar, so I can't use commands that I'm used to, but let's say So I made 2 pages. So if I look for Bob, then I get Bob the cat and Bob the book. And then I'm going to go and say that this one here is the book. Let's apply that one. And now when I configure and you go to your example and you can search, as you see, I just see Hail Mary and Bob the cat the book, but not Bob the cat because it filters out. So this small change is something I'm really looking forward to, because that means that I can build a lot of simple data structures and keep my data entry way more consistent. It's something that, yeah, I'm almost counting to. Now for the database part, as I said, I can't show a lot because it's all backend. I know that doesn't perform as well, and I still don't know where it saves this, because I tried looking, for example, in the developer tools. There should be like an application set here. It's not it. Network memory maybe. Why is it not showing? Oh, it's just slow. I think my laptop needs a cleaning. There we go. So you have like storage here, and it shows that there's stuff inside the page. But considering the fact that it doesn't run on my desktop, so when it's remote dialing into it, it does some trickery there to work with. And I don't know right now where these databases get stored. There's like an index DB, but that's not the DB we were looking for. Oh, let's give that a go. That sounds good. Let's just query and see what happens. And then I say like find, in this case I want to say pages, and then say property. Oh no, this is looking on the properties that are in there. It's nice that you get like a set here, but you know, that one doesn't work as well. We just want to get everything that's a book, right? So that means that I want to query on pages that have the tag book, and then we get all the books back. Is that the one that you meant at the setup where we're just looking at this and saying like, hey, so that's like the most simple query I can think of it, but I also like the fact that you can say like, hey, I want to have a specific subset. So I see like for Bob the Cat the book, where we had Hail Mary, and I thought I filled in Andy, but I probably forgot. Oh yeah, this is like the problem that I saw earlier, where like pushing enter gives me a weird set. Let's see if I can cheat my way a bit by filling an author here and saying like, okay, Bob was the author. Don't press enter. See if it sticks. Yeah, now it shows me the author Bob here, and then I can say, hey, I want to filter everything that has the property author. And then let's see, Bob. No auto-completion here. Maybe no auto-completion yet. Oh, that's my own laptop here. No, try it again. Property, author. No, it doesn't pick it. I could probably write it inside the query. Oh, that's awesome to know. So that most of these mean that from a development perspective that we're hitting it. Epsilon, thanks. That you know, at least answers a question to me. It just assumes that like I'm not watching it while it is. My inner nerd / engineer still wants to know how I can resolve it at some point, but that at least gives me that for the playing around part we're good. Yeah, as said, like I need to dive into the technical side to figure out like where does it save it. I could do some digging to see if we can find something like in the backend by maybe, I don't know, putting in a word and seeing if I can find it somewhere in the backend. I'm also wondering if there's like an export option and what I get then. Oh, there we have export as SQLite database. Well, that seemed like a button to push. And that was instant. That was like, look, downloaded the file straight away. this gets me excited. Like now I want to see like, okay, what's in the database? So let's go dive in that one, because that sounds fun. Put it in the download directory. Let's there's too many projects in here. Make their SQLite and copy downloads. And then how was it called? Okay, moment. Obviously. Do I have SQLite? I do. I haven't used SQLite. This is not MySQL, so that's different for me. But let's see tables. Does it show everything? Yeah. Okay, just see. Is that just one table? Oh, let's just try this. See what happens. That looks familiar, at least. That's part of it. But it doesn't tell me a lot. Does it have a describe kind of thing? Print, programs, recover, save, schema. Ooh. Yeah, I don't like this. No, that's just me. Maybe because it's a setup, because like having a primary key is one thing and then having the content in text is another. But having the content in text still feels very much like not using the system, what it can do. So let's see, let's take address from KVS. Yeah, so these things have like a unique number, so it's mostly storage, and then the content text, and then the text is just one. So let's just select one entry, select content, KVS, where address is this one. So this is like one block of information, and then I get the EDN. So one of the reasons why I'm like slightly frustrated right now is because this is just a dump of the EDNs, and so the things that I was mentioning about like being able to query SQLite and get stuff out of it doesn't really apply. You still need to read everything in. That means that like the memory benefits that I was talking about aren't happening. Might be that they are still going to fix this. I get that this is like a really fast way to get it to work without changing too much, but it's still leaning a lot on like the internal memory structure of Clojure, I think. But pardon me if I don't know exactly what it's talking about. Key value store, yeah, absolutely. That's the name for it. It's and then when I look at this original name, wait, I'm wondering if I see like, oh yeah, I see page tags, books. So this is like the query. This is the query that I found that I was building. DB ident. Block. But then you still have to take this apart. Let me just see if I can prettify this a bit. This is not ideal, but I'm just gonna go see like it's all block based, right? Yeah, this to me feels like it's a bit of a shortcut, but as I said, like the shortcut could also very much mean done, because they're still in development. But for an export, I want something better than this, because this makes like a hard case to explain to people why this is still like an open format. Why is this not working? Probably because it's using blocks. Let's see, this is the one, right? Yeah. Maybe we should just go to like EDN beautify, because this is EDN, or is this JSON? No, this is EDN. JSON has commas in it. Let me see if I can cheat my way through this by just finding EDN pretty prints. Pretty prints, that's like a separate tool. Yeah, that's also a lot of work. Sometimes it's like there's like easy solutions, and sometimes there's non-easy solution. Let's try it again, and just say like, hey, %s, find anything that starts with this, and give me a that with that. There we go. At least, you know, it's like a bit more readable. So what we see is like all the things that are normal in the EDN for Logseq, which is like an original name. Some block name, Hail Mary. So these are multiple blocks, it feels like, or not. Block created, and then page tags. I have no idea what I'm looking at right now. I do see like a reference to like a lot of the other sets, but this makes it like really hard to just go through it and find stuff yourself. I was kind of hoping to get like each block and have like at least a couple of fields separated. And that way I could like query things together. And now I would still have to write a script to read every entry, extract the EDN, convert the EDN to something that my code could read, and then based on these find the other sets, basically rewriting Logseq, which isn't as open as I would like it. Of course, you can just export it as an EDN or as a markdown. Let's give that one a go, see if that one works. I think that's also like fun to try. So let's see, I have these set up here. And now this is really small, so it should export pretty instantly, but let's make a markdown export. And then what I get is a zip file that is empty. So unless I'm missing something. Yeah, this is all still work in progress, because if there's not even a single file, then I think that they're still working on this part of it. Yeah, I like where this is going. There's a lot of things that I also dislike here. One of the main things being that I would really like the SQLite to be a bit more open, because now the whole benefit kind of drops there. It's like, hey, what if I have a large graph? Will this still perform? How will the database affect me? Other things is like the class thing is like still very finicky, but I also read that one of the things that they're doing is they're going to be adding testing to it. And it feels very much like not everybody's working on this at the same time. It might also be tricky because there's like still a lot of development happening there. My hope is kind of that we'll get to like a version 1. And now from a, I don't think if it's safe that mentioned it, but from like an agile perspective, what I don't like is that this has been taking like a long time. I much rather seen like smaller iterations on this, so that we could provide feedback and then get like into like a feedback loop. Now it feels like they're diving under for a year and that we're getting some results from it eventually, which are large point in the right direction, but it also means that there's no base to keep jumping from. Like now people are kind of waiting for this database version to drop before they can extend, improve, and get to next levels on it. I still like really love the whole setup of the classes. That's something that I would want. It's also something that, you know, if I didn't care so much about my privacy and open source and stuff like that, I could get today with other tools. But, you know, that's like a personal preference that I have, and also one of the reasons why my channel focuses on Logseq, because I love using the open source solutions and having control of my own data. So not being able to export to Markdown for me is like a scratch point, but I'm confident that that has to be fixed before they put out a release. Else we're going to be filling like at least 5 forum threads with people complaining about it, and I think that they wouldn't be wrong. That's roughly it. That was what I wanted to talk about. Any questions, thoughts, throw them in the chat so that I can like talk about it, and else I'll wrap up the chat and I'll use this information to build my long-term video. Maybe still try to get it to work on my desktop eventually, but it's yeah, the glibc is going to be a problem. There's like there's like a whole thought process that I still have with the whole classes thing. I really like the idea of the class setup, but that's not really database related. I'm also kind of wondering what's stopping Logseq from using that one first, like in working on the database in the backend, because there should be like a separation between the storage method and the usability. There's like some overlap, but of course we have properties, we have setup, and I don't really feel like the current setup really needs the database to allow tags for pages, for example, because we already have properties per page. And it would make Logseq so much better and so much more consistent for a lot of people. Definitely people like me that are a bit scatterbrained. I need a tool to kind of push me into like a direction to get most out of it. And this is why I like the whole idea of saying like, hey, this is a book, this is a project, this is a person, this is a Jira ticket, for example. I can build structures that then stay the same. Now the structures are usually like templates that I use where I try to be consistent, but because I have a hard time being consistent, eventually the data integrity goes down because I had a lazy day or I was tired or I just didn't care about it that day. Another one is there, for example, I do time tracking in Logseq where every day I have like a field where I'm saying like, this is how many hours I worked. And I have like a field that shows me like which week it is. And those are all things that I would like to be pre-filled. So with this setup, I could just say like, okay, this is a journal page. These are the properties that I want to get in there. But it's still outside of the database scope. I really hope the SQL is better. Cool. Then I'm going to wrap up the stream. Thanks all for watching. As I said, there's going to be a summary in like a 10-minute video, and I was looking forward to at least chatting with a couple of people and probably streaming that as well, where I want to like dive into like the feelings that we have about it, like where it's heading, and you know, if we're getting anywhere with that. But there's like also a whole bunch of questions that I want to ask Logseq as well. It's like, you know, what's the global vision here? What are you guys working towards in the background, and is things going to speed up once it releases? Remember, you're awesome, keep it up, and see you in the next one.